Okay, so now what we plan to cover is AEIOU model, systems thinking approach, Anderson model, and we will do a breakout room activity for designing training feedback form. So that would be in the second half of the first session. All right. Now let's start with the AEIOU model. Now, what is AEIOU? I mean, it's like a vowel, right? All are vowels. So this is a popular framework, very structured, very systematic in nature. Now, if you see here, it is, having certain important aspects. Say, for example, if we have certain evaluations done in a particular order, we will get certain inputs for every stage. By this, I mean, if we do the evaluation at A level, you get certain data points which could serve as input for doing the evaluation at E level. The output which you receive at E level could serve as important data points as input for the I level and so on and so forth. So collectively, if you collect the information of what you get after the evaluation at A, E, I, O, and U level, it gives you a holistic picture of the efficacy of any training program. So what is A? A is accountability, E is effectiveness, I is impact, O is organizational context, and U is unanticipated outcome. So this model is popularly known as AEIOU, and it is developed by Fortune, Kit, Sweeney, and Sorensen. All right, now let's see what are the different types of evaluation questions you can have. Okay, by the way, it's also known as a ladder model. Okay, focused efforts towards climbing the ladder can ensure self-development. So this particular model is focusing more on self-development, individual development. Okay, so if you have any individual development programs and you want to evaluate how people have received, learned, and how they are applying, and what organizational level impact each of these individuals are doing at a small, task level or at a project level, you can use AEIOU model. So what kind of questions you can have? Since we are into the training, measurement, and evaluation topic, the accountability questions could be, did the program accomplish what was identified to be accomplished? This is for a particular person. Did the trainers do? Now this is again for the trainers. Did the trainers do what they said they would be going to do? Okay, now with regards to the individual development, where do I stand with respect to accountability and ownership? So it's self-evaluation. Am I owning an initiative, activity for my team? Self-evaluation. Am I accountable, responsible for the same? Am I leading and showing the way to others? Am I reaching out to people and asking them for help? Or do I prefer to work alone? Have I created an artifact where I am the primary owner? In my ownership, is my ownership increasing with time? So this is more about the self-development, more so about the self-evaluation. So this is with regards to the accountability questions. Now you see the effectiveness questions. Okay. What were the participants' reaction to the training program? This is with respect to the implementation of his or her learning at the workplace. What were the participants' reaction to the training program? Did the trainers do what they said they were going to do? Where test assessments were conducted? How was the performance? So this is very specific to the implementation. How are the performances? Now this is again self-evaluation. Have I learned something? So that you will understand if you are doing a live project, something real time. How applicable or useful this program has been for me, Again, if you are doing something hands-on, are you able to apply those learnings? So ask yourself whether this program is useful for you, right? So this is a self-evaluation one way, another is overall implementation aspects to find out the effectiveness of the program. Third is the impact question. So there are again two layers. One is generic, another is the self-evaluation.
Ma'am, sorry to interrupt you. I have a question on the
Kavita,
previous
I will address your question a little bit from now. I'll take your question a little bit from now. Let me finish this model first, okay? Impact questions, as I said, one is a generic, another is a self-evaluation. So what new learnings I have applied, what differences I can see, feel, and hear. Self-evaluation of the impact of any training program. And implementation, that is generic, what business measure checks that need to be done following the programs. All right. Now, this is an impact level question. Again, you have two layers for this. One is generic, another is self-evaluation. What was the purpose? Sorry, was the purpose explained to me? What is it in it for me? Okay, this is organizational context. And generic would be what structures, policies, processes, events in the organization or environment helped me in accomplishing my goals or came in my way in accomplishing my goals. What contributed to the success of the program or failure of the program? Was the context of the program set? Was the context of training program covered well? This is with respect to the organizational context. And last but not the least, the fifth layer of AEIOU is unanticipated consequence. Now, what it means is, to give you a very simple example, you have charted a program, which is, say, a communication workshop. Okay. Now, basis on your organizational context, organizational requirement, function requirement, individual requirement, it came up that your program structure should include a lot of business English coverage, which means these are for the factory workers. They are not very well versed with English grammar usage. There are a lot of mistakes they do while they speak, while they read, while they write. So your 70% of your program structure should include grammar. And the remaining 30% would be about, presentation aspects. All right. So this is the program structure. Now, accordingly, the content has been delivered, content has been prepared, and handouts have been given to your participants. Okay. In the session before the session started. Now, during this 2 hours or 3 hours program that you have designed, now I would say, since grammar has to be covered, it need not be covered in 3 hours. It will take certain length of time for anybody to grasp what grammatical errors they make and what are the fundamentals in grammar so that they don't make any mistakes going forward. So it takes certain time. But having said that, you are doing, say, a refresher course, which is you are running for, say, 4 hours or something, 3 hours or 4 hours, around that. All right. So in this refresher course, which is a brush up of what had been learned, say, over 1 month or 2 months of this English course. Okay. During these 3 to 4 hours, it happened that during the course of conversation with the participants also got to receive certain tips and tricks of active listening or, say, projective listening, so how a person can develop their listening skills, right? That is an added advantage for the participants, which was never part of the overall learning objective or outcome to be achieved. All right. So this is an add-on which came up in the process of, say, certain conversations or certain examples. So this is an unanticipated consequence, which means that it is not outlined in the objective or the outcome, but people have learned extra. They have learned more. They have learned something which is relevant See, communication does not necessarily mean just the grammar or just the presentation. It also includes heavily your listening capabilities, your listening skills. All right. So they got over and above what was in the program outline or program objectives. So that is what exactly is unanticipated. You never thought it will be covered, but it was actually been covered and discussed. Okay, so that is what is unanticipated consequence. Now the questions again have two layers. One is for self-evaluation, which is what additional learnings I learned, which was not in the objectives or learning outcomes. What is it that I did not learn, but what was part of the program or covered in the program? So it can happen two ways. One is something you gained more and something which you expected, but it got missed out. So it could happen two ways as well, which is unanticipated. Okay. And implementation level question is what unanticipated changes or consequences happened as a result of the program. So it's more generic. All right. So these are the 5 layers. It is in a very structured and systematic way. You cannot go from A to U suddenly. It has to be in the ladder format, like you climb up the ladder in a very systematic manner. You cannot just jump a couple of steps, otherwise you will fall. It won't give you any results. Likewise, this also needs to be done as A, E, I, O, and U way. This is a framework, and it is mainly used for self-development, not for team development collectively. But in a team, individual development, you can use this. So yes, Kavita, you can raise your question now.
Ma'am, one of the slides covered the performance. So are we referring to an individual's performance at work, or are we talking about the way the training got delivered by the trainer?
So the training got developed by the trainer, you have it on the second line. How it was delivered by the trainer, right? Did the trainers do what was required to be done?
Okay.
Here we are talking about individual performance. So individual performance means if you have a team and each members in the team are individuals, right? So collectively, you can overall gauge the team performance as well by individually scoring each of the individuals. So I'm talking about individual performances here, which can lead to team performance assessment.
Okay, it's outside the training area, right? I mean, the training duration. You're linking the performance back to work. Is that so?
Exactly. So it's the effectiveness of a program. Now, effectiveness can only be measured at the 3rd level and the 4th level more precisely, because learning is absorption. Unless you actually apply, you do not know how much you have done the change, how much the difference has been done, right? The 2nd level is more about absorption, how much learning gain happens. But unless you implement, you cannot really check the efficacy of any program.
What's typically the time lapse that we're looking at for us to measure the performance and link that to the training effectiveness?
So you are saying between level 2 and level 3?
Yeah. So what's the time lapse?
Depends on the program. Depends on the program, because if you are going to do a say a technical program, okay, you cannot really wait for 6 months. I mean, a project is right at your doorstep.
Correct.
Okay, you have finished the program, or I mean, whatever, the training or the coaching or the workshop or whatever. You have finished it today. There is today, tomorrow, it's nothing like tomorrow. The project has started as of yesterday. Correct. So that is what is a business terminology, right?
Yes.
So you need to immediately apply and see how you are making certain differences for your team or for your business. But behavior takes certain time, that we all agree. It's Correct. Not an overnight game. So multiple reinforcements, certain behavior modeling, all of this applied multiple times, observations, seeing the changes, gradual progress which is happening, it takes certain time, which is roughly around 3 to 6 months, given that are regular interventions in between. It's not like today you have done and wait after 6 months if there is a change. It will never happen. You have to again start from the beginning after 6 months. If you have not evaluated on a regular basis, formative, summative, time.
Okay.
All right. So technical, functional, it is immediate. Behavioral, gradual progress.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions, anybody? Okay. If not, then let's move on.
Can you hear me?
Okay. All right. So let's understand about the Anderson learning model. Okay. So Anderson learning model is again a very popular model. Here it mainly focuses on 4 important business critical measures, short term as well as long term. And this model is greatly inspired by L&D benchmarking measures by Brandon Hall. All right, now what are these 4 important measures? As I said, short term benefits, it will give you certain idea, certain information. Also long term benefits, it will give you certain information. Also, the senior management who are important stakeholders in each and every programs that you run, right? Because they are the people who will be asking you or who would be monitoring how each of your training programs are running and how people are getting benefited out of it. Okay, long term and short term. So that is again one important part of this Anderson model. Also, what changes at organization level each of your learning programs are making. So these are the 4 important measures, okay, which is called learning and development function measures. That is how your learning team as such in total they are doing. Okay. Also, we are talking about the return on investment measures, okay, which is again the ROI measures. We have been discussing about this Philip model. Also, it talks about the return on expectations, ROE, which is mainly the 4th level, the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th level of the Kirkpatrick model, and benchmark and capability measures. Okay, so this is organization-wide. Benchmark and capability measures. Now, I'm not just talking about a learning program here. I'm talking about organizational capability measures, which covers a lot of things, and we will see what those key things are. So these are the 4 important measures under Anderson's value of learning model. Okay, and it is greatly inspired by the L&D measures of by Brandon Hall. Okay, now let's see what the learning function measures are. Okay, so learning function measures are definitely, how each of your learning team is doing, so the learning department is doing on the whole. Okay, now you have the KPIs for each of your people, right? If we don't have, then it's very, very important to have the KPIs. I think in one of the sessions I did mention about, how you can do the competency mapping, which is important, and how you must have job descriptions, re-evaluate, re-engineer the job descriptions every 6 months, benchmarking with the other companies working in your industry domain. So that's where the benchmark, the 4th layer, the 4th quadrant you see here, what are the benchmarking measures? Okay, so where you lie with respect to the benchmarking that you are doing with other organizations who are 2 level, 3 level, maybe 100% they are doing well. Okay, so where are you? Where is your current level with respect to the organizational profits, revenue? Okay, I'm talking about that. So you must do regular benchmarking. So we call it as rationalization. Okay, or we call it as normalization, rationalization, right? So where are you and what in your industry, what others are doing? So regular benchmarking. Now with respect to the performance measures, right? We're talking about the learning and development and the performance measures of individuals. So job description review needs to be done every 6 months. It depends on the strength of your organization. Now, if you have limited number of employee strength, say, 50 to 100, you need not wait for 6 months to do a job evaluation or a job review, job description review. But if you have 10,000, 15,000, you must wait for some time, because you complete one cycle, it itself takes around 4 to 5 months. And then again, you start the next cycle. So benchmarking is really important, right? So learning function or any other function, we must do the competency mapping. We must have the competency dictionary. We must have the KPIs, key performance indicators. So these are nothing but the measures. And that we must also have for our training function, for our learning function. All right. And now you imagine the role of each and every individual in the learning function. You have the learning and development head, you have the OD head, you have the managers, you have the content developers, you have the storyboarding experts. So you have different roles and responsibilities within the learning function. And each of these roles and responsibilities, or rather, each of these job titles have critical responsibilities to ensure that people, once they deliver the programs in whichever format, whether it's a training, whether it's a coaching, whether it's a workshop, whether it's a simulation, whether it's a learning journey, whether it's a one-off program, so anything, any type or nature of the programs that you are doing as a learning function, how my participants, on the other hand, they are gaining, what they are gaining in terms of change in attitude, that is also a measure of both how the people are doing and how the learning function has effectively designed and delivered to ensure there is a change in the attitude, there is a change in the skills, there's a change in the knowledge, and there is a visible change in the habits, right? So that's why the ultimate, I would say, the yardstick is how people have changed in terms of A, S, K, and H gains. All right, so this is the learning function measure. Now, when I say the capability measures, as I said, it's not just individual capability or capabilities of people at different layers in the organization or levels. It is referring to even a factory capability. So when I say factory capability, what is the utilization percentage of the factory? What is the utilization percentage of a resource? So when I say resource does not necessarily mean people. It can mean time, it can mean a machine as a resource, it can mean a factory as a resource, it can mean effort, so time, machine, material. So all of these are resources. Okay, in fact, your work desk. So a lot of times you see that you don't have a dedicated desk. It's a desk which can be utilized by others when you are not utilizing, right? So how effectively the work desks are being utilized in the office. If you have 1,000 people, maybe the work desks are only, say, 600. Why? Because they have done some calculation about the utilization of the work desks and they have not made it as dedicated desk. So when one person, say Arpita is working today from 12 to 4, before 12 and after 4, there might be others who might occupy. So one work desk, but 3 people are working on the same desk. So this is what is the capability measure. So capability can cover a lot of aspects, not just people. As I said, any resource for that matter. So let me give you certain examples of capability measures. All right. So resource utilization. So person, factory, machinery, equipment, commodity, material, anything as a resource, how well it is utilized. So some examples of organizational capabilities. Okay, at a very high level, people and their competencies, process, methods and efficiencies, talent deployment and their performance, the development programs and their effectiveness, innovation capabilities. So when I say our top 5 vision is, one is innovation. Rest others could be meritocracy or courage, or it could be others, right? So company's top 5 vision, okay, values and vision statement. So innovation could be one. So how are we saying that we are a highly innovative company? How? So how do we measure that? New innovations, how frequently? Frequency of new innovations. What is the quality, of your products, processes, services? What is the cycle time that you are maintaining? What is the engineering efficiency? So these are again the 4th level of Kirkpatrick, the 4th level matrices to find out your innovation capability, your organization's innovation capability. Okay, new products. So all of this, so these are the different measures. Likewise, how do I know how the customer the index is? Okay, satisfaction indexes. So again, how do we measure that? Discretely. Percent of sales from new products, percent of sales from existing products, on-time delivery, defined by the customer, share of key accounts purchases, market share, profitability, retention, acquisition. So these are discretely, if you see, these are the heads for which we need to do certain measures to understand how the customer satisfaction index is. So these are all part of the capability measures at an organization level. Likewise, how do I know how my organization's financial strength is? What is the cash inflow, quarterly sales growth, operating income, ROE, market share, etc. What is the employee value proposition? How do I know where do I stand, where my organization stands? Not I, individual, but organization. When I say I, means organization here in this context. How my organization's employee value propositions are. How do I know that? How HR can gauge that? How HR can measure that? Okay. What is the affordability of my organization to pay my employees? Okay. How is the compensation structure? How are the benefits? Are my organization providing good benefits to the employees? Culture. What is the organization culture? Are there enough career opportunities and growth and progression opportunities within the organization? So this is the health. This is basically a health check. Okay. Work environment, opportunities. So what is the employee value proposition I'm giving? Okay, that will enable retention, that will enable happy internal customers. Okay, if my internal customers are happy, they will serve external customers better, right? So these are certain capability measures. Okay, so indirectly or directly, it is all linked to the resource utilization measures. And okay, so do we have any questions on this 4 important measures of Anderson model? Any questions, anybody? Any questions?
Can you please quickly repeat all 4? I can see resource utilization is 1 and organizational capability is 2. Which is the 3rd and 4th?
No, we mentioned about the learning and development function measures. That is the first one.
Okay, the quadrant you showed. Okay.
Exactly. Those are the 4 measures. Learning function measures, which I discussed. Return on expectation measures, we had discussed before. Return on investment measures, we had discussed before. Today, we discussed learning function measures and benchmark and capability measures.
Okay.
Right. So Anderson value model covers all these 4 measures. All right. Okay. So I guess there are no questions. Then we will move ahead. Okay. Now systems thinking approach. So anybody who understands systems thinking approach, any thoughts?
Ma'am,
Any
as
idea?
I understand the way you introduced AEIOU model, where the output of a particular level serves as an input to the next, unit or the model. So this is what I earlier understood as systems thinking approach. Like for example, the output of an PMS
This is
review.
a different, this is a different approach altogether.
Okay.
Okay, this is a completely different approach.
Like I was sharing the output
About a
of.
system. It's about multiple systems. It's like an interconnectedness.
Okay, so
Multiple
as I was
systems.
explaining, ma'am, the output of my PMS model, can be IDP needs. So that will serve as inputs to my training system, where I design the learning, the objectives. It goes as a part of the TNA. Is that what you mean?
Okay. So see now, see if you see here that your IDPs are serving as inputs to your overall training design. Now here I'm talking about, so that's a process. We're talking about a process there. There is a process link. Okay. Because if you have an IDP and if you just, let it be, you don't take any action on that IDP, it's not going to serve us any purpose, right? So it's a process related interconnectedness. But here I'm talking about system. For example, tools, systems.
Okay.
Okay, so
we can say that based on the past events and understanding, we are predicting the future outcomes.
that's again, that's not system, that's not tool. Where the tool is coming into picture over there?
Okay.
Tools. Okay, so now if you must be aware of success factors or SAP or Oracle. So many big popular tools and systems are there, right, in the market. Any of your organization is having MIS, HRIS rather, or a management information system, human resource information system. Is it just a single unit, which means does it have any connectivity with performance management or compensation management or learning management or ATS? Any of your systems are having anything working in silo?
Usually it's not. It's all interconnected systems.
It is all interconnected, because if you don't have your HRIS updated, okay, your employee IDs being updated, it will be a humongous task for you to again feed the same information in each of your PMS, LMS, CMS, all of that. So there is some level of interconnectedness, whether it's through a primary key or a secondary key or any kind of algorithm that talk to each other. So each of these systems are talking to each other to give you a final robust report. So you can generate a report which is on the basis of the interconnected system network that you have. Otherwise, you will not be able to generate a holistic report. Suppose you need to find out an employee XYZ, or rather, you need to just populate how many people, how many employees are there in the organization for the last 15 years. Okay. For the last 15 years, find out what were their performance ratings over the last 3 years. So these are my queries to generate a final report. Okay. So see how complicated it could be. So the management has come back and told you, I need all those employees who are there in the system for last 15 years, who are from this location, who are from this background, who has served this client who has got performance rating internally more than, say, in a scale of 1 to 5, more than 3, consistently for more than 3 years, and whose performance ratings given by the customers are all 5-star. So how will you find this? So if you don't have an interconnected, robust system where you have the HRIS updated, where you have the PMS updated, where you have the customer management system, right? That is also updated. Okay. I'm not referring to the compensation anywhere in my query. So CMS may not be connected. So if you have these 3-4 systems not connected, it will be really difficult to pull up this report for your management. Yes or no? So these are certain reports that I remember I have generated in my past. Very complicated. Unless you have a robust network like this, all interconnected systems, right? It is really difficult for you to give you the right data. You can just make some data and give, but to give you the right information, to give them the right information. So that is what is a systems thinking approach, that no system should work or operate in silo. There should be a well connectivity between multiple systems for you to generate management reports and make decisions. Have you faced, any of you, have you faced this kind of requirements in past?
A lot of times, ma'am.
Yes. So unless we have a well interconnected system, it is very, very difficult to pull up these kinds of detailed report. Historical data, right?
Yeah,
So,
Madam Bhupender side.
yes,
I just have a query on this. Why do the stakeholders, they think like the trainer should not be shared with the data and all? I have been having these issues from past 2 years. The stakeholders don't share any data with me. So it becomes very difficult, to analyze gap analysis. So I just wanted to know why the stakeholders don't actually rely on the trainers for the data.
Okay, so Bhupinder ji, I have a question back to you. Now, can you give your context? What was the context? What type of data you sought?
Because I am taking care of modern trade, so we actually, we have this system and processes, SOPs, like executions at the store level, and these all things are been tracked by the concerned managers. So once we are going for the OJT, we do require such kind of a data, but they don't share with us. That was an issue.
You are part
actually.
of the HR team, Bhupinder ji? You are part of the HR team?
I am a part of a capability management team.
Which is coming under the HR team?
Not exactly. Our hierarchy has been changed, so we are actually directly reporting to the business head.
Okay. So generally, there are certain neutral functions. For example, HR is a neutral function. They are supposedly a neutral function. Okay, so generally functions which are neutral function, they have the access to each and every information of the entire organization. All right, so you might be required to work with HR in that respect, because HR will talk to the business unit and get the approval, and then it can be cascaded accordingly. So you must speak to the concerned HR team and try to get the information if you are not getting it from the other business.
Done, ma'am. Thank you.
So HR is the custodian. Okay, so you have to approach the custodian.
I'm adding one more hurdle to Bhupender Paji's problem.
Yes.
Time the HR also doesn't play a very vital role, because what problem Bhupender sir is facing, the same problem even I face. So the thing is that the question remains the same: why these stakeholders are not that very much concerned about the outcome, the expectation that we have from them, like certain reports or certain feedback that we expect from them. So they themselves take training for granted, and in case if anything doesn't work, then they put it on training team only. That's it. So training, if anything goes good, this is because of their effort. If anything goes wrong, it is because of training team.
So Jinish, right? Jinish, is it Jinish?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yes. So Jinish, it's an old age thing that we have heard, office politics.
That is the thing which.
Okay, so office politics is never going to go. It is going to stay. And yes, HR must play a strategy role, right? It's not just an administrative function. It's not just a support function. Nowadays, in a lot of organizations, HR has a big say in the boardroom. Okay, so it's not just a administrative function anymore. So people are making decisions who are actually, some of the CEOs are also having backgrounds of human resource. Finance is also there, human resource is also there, and sales is also there. Some of the CEOs, well-known CEOs, you would see that people are from HR background as well. So, HR has to play a strategy role, decision makers in certain important key aspects in the organization. And of that time, you can definitely see that, people are looking up to HR as a very valued function. All right, as the custodian of in the organization. So politics is there. It is going to be there. It is never going to go. But however, how we can, it's like getting the work done. You have seen Ankur, you have read Ankur Wariku's 2 books, right?
No, I've heard of his name and also a few videos which is there on YouTube or something like that. So I keep on seeing his videos. So he speaks
Okay,
really
there are
well.
2 books, okay? Do epic shit and get
Okay.
epic shit done.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'll just
So
read this
do
book.
epic shit and get epic shit done. Okay, so both we have to do in terms of overcoming the office politics.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'll try to read it.
Anybody who has read both the books?
The books, but I could relate. Rather, I read If God Was a Banker by Ravi Subramaniam. I think that encapsulates everything A to Z of BFSI.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And
Right, but what they are talking of is primarily sales-driven organizations, where if anything is, sales is the main, voice in the organization. Their HR does take a backseat at times, wherein they have to probably tone down even if they want to do something. So those things do happen. So I think that's where the whole thing, and a good example of HR being at the helm is Viva Life Insurance has the current MD is an HR head, ex-HR head. So those transitions are there, but like organizations like Times of India will be very HR driven. So you can't do anything with Amit Das around, right? So so there are organizations which are HR driven, there are organizations which are sales driven, primarily on the
absolutely.
telecom and insurance, BFSI, fraternity sales plays a huge role. So I think that's where the problem arises. And I think
I'll give you an example. Okay, yeah, good. Thanks, Supreet, for sharing. So Bhupinder ji and Jinesh, if both of your organizations are sales-driven organization, right? I also worked for a solar company, the manufacturer of this entire end-to-end, okay? End-to-end solar products. The manufacturing used to happen in US. Few customizations and localization work used to happen in India. Okay, so India was a sales office primarily. We had huge network of channel partners and distributors, Apex distributors, which is a state level distributors, and highest number of channel partners if we used to compare with any other solar company in India. Okay, so it was primarily a sales function, a sales organization, and I used to work for them. So my role was customer COE center head, okay, center of excellence center head, which means this particular role was mainly responsible for complete learning and OD. So when I say learning and OD, not just the internal folks, learning of the functional level skills, which is the sales, back end, front end, end-to-end learning, plus learning for the channel partners, distributors, any updation of any products, anything. Okay, so we used to have this L&OD as major part of the COE, Center of Excellence team. We had a major say, even though it was coming under the umbrella of the HR. Okay, so I was in HR team only, but a specific role of COE, Center of Excellence. So I used to have regular discussions with MD because the learning of the channel partners, distributors, internal folks, product, process training, SOPs, function training, CRM training, everything was taken care of by the COE. So we had a major say when we used to sit together with the sales heads at different levels, north, south, east, west, and mid India. Okay, I also used to sit with the MD. So we used to have major say and separate meetings with the MD. So sales-driven organization also, it can work in a very, so HR can have a say also in a sales-driven organization. Like the example which I gave, I was part of it in that organization. Okay, so it is possible, but how the internal processes are, that we have to kind of tweak a bit to see how you can reach the MD and, give value adds or share value discussions with him.
Ma'am,
Right?
I
So,
think for confidentiality matters also, no? Just because, even in sales, I'm from ops. So what happens is even at different designation wise also, they release, okay, you can only access to these reports. These reports can be only accessed by a certain senior level. So not everything is available to everyone because honestly, like we
absolutely.
talk about SOP, they get leaked. There are companies in SOP, when you join some other company, you'll find word to word being same. So there are a lot of
Absolutely.
a
Absolutely.
lot of those
Absolutely.
angles also, they don't release everything to everyone. So you have, but if you have friends, obviously you can kind of derive. So
Absolutely. So that was one example, Jinesh, and thank you, Namrata. Jinesh and Bhupinder, I hope you get some leads from what I just gave you as an example. Take the ownership of driving the SOP. Okay, take the ownership of driving the SOP. So you connect with the different cells or regional RMs of different locations and be a facilitator there. Okay, collect information. You take the lead in preparing and re-engineering the SOP. So the visibility increases gradually. So as the visibility increases, that you are the forerunner for the complete SOP re-engineering of your organization. So as I said, how the process is laid down from the top down, that also makes a lot of difference. Okay, you can take the ownership and accountability of completely driving the SOP. You can have a discussion with your manager who can discuss with the MD and give you that unique responsibility. And you do it with complete justice. So automatically you take a seat in the important discussions. And if you have these challenges, you can definitely openly discuss them. Right? So these are certain, tweaking you can probably think about. And it might definitely help. I hope
Okay,
I'm able to address.
Yeah,
okay,
ma'am,
the only one
I have
question
one
which is coming in
submission.
my mind.
Sorry,
Uh,
1 minute.
the only
1
one
minute.
question.
There's some disturbance. 1 minute. 1 minute. Yes. Sorry. Yeah. So Nilanjan, I'll hear you. I guess somebody was saying something. Sorry, I didn't get your name.
No, ma'am, Jinesh here.
Vinesh, yeah.
Yeah. So the only concern which I like after everything, whatever you told and Miss, I don't know, one lady was speaking in the middle. I just miss her name. Sorry for
Namrata.
that. Namrata. So whatever she said, like, there are several data which cannot be shared with the junior team member or something like that. But always it is expected the junior team member should perform very well. So without, they are always expected to come up with some certain initiatives and all these things. So If this is the case that several data or several information cannot be shared with these people, then expecting from the trainer, it is just a concern that expecting it from the trainer is very difficult. And what good thing they can give in return after conducting the training? Because if the gap is maintained, then we won't be able to come to the or to give our best shots. But if it is like this, then the trainer team will always be a backend team where we won't be able to play like Virat Kohli or Dhoni ever. So we will be always considered the 12th man. I think so.
So that's how the resource utilization is happening, right? I mean, that managers, it's the manager's responsibility to find out my employee's strength and how they want to delegate the tasks, the capabilities, understanding. So all of that, it's a lot to do with how managers know each of their team members. So I guess, that will solve the problem. Understanding individual strengths in the team, it's like, doing the strengthscape. I discussed in one of the sessions, I think previously, right? You have these 34 themes, right? So you find out each and every details of your team members, what they are good at, what are their strengths, okay? And capitalize on those strengths appropriately. Okay, so that's something that we need to work on. I mean, as a manager, they need to understand each and every member's capabilities and then assign projects accordingly. So that's how capability utilization also becomes more effective. All right, so that's a separate discussion. All right, yes, Nilanjan, please.
Yeah, ma'am, I have one submission. So this is because, which I gathered after talking to my younger brother, Deepan. He's a full-time L&D professional. Like I am into HR plus I am looking after L&D, but he is a full-time L&D professional. So what he has shared with me in his own layman language is that as a trainer and L&D, professional, we don't have to be interesting. We have to be interested. And interested in whom? Interested in all the RMs which are there in the business as well as the business head. Now, what happens is that, what he started, what is his approach is, first of all, he tries to know more about the whoever is the regional manager in detail. What is his, strength, motivation, belief, values, traits, motives, why he is into the business. Number one. Number two is that, during his training program, he tries to make the training program in such a way that even the RMs have a session to contribute. For example, a half an hour session, 45-minute session, and he, motivates them to take a session. And thereafter, now what he has started since last 3-4 years is that he tries to make small, videos of those people. He keep himself in backseat, try to project them. So if you go and check his, YouTube, LinkedIn profile, so now the RMs are featuring more in his videos. Okay. So now slowly and steadily, when you develop that camaraderie with the, regional manager and business head, and when your training by itself is of a certain quality that it speaks for himself, then that message reaches to the top. And slowly and slowly and steadily, when they see value in your trainings, they will tell you each and everything with respect to business, because they are seeing values in your training. So, so we can make as many friends as in 2 weeks than in 2 years by showing interest in our, fellow colleagues. So that is what the principle I believe, we as a professional have to use. And this I can tell from my own, experience also. Like, for example, we decided that my international business was close to 50 crores, 50 CRs, whereas the rest of wholesale business was more than 2,500 CRs. So we, developed a whole competency in and around the international team. And then, initially they were not telling me what was their, targets, or what was their, which region, for example, Middle East, from Middle East region, what was the business they were anticipating, from rest of the world, what was the business they were anticipating, similarly from Africa. But slowly and steadily, when they saw value in my, in my approach, in whatever I was trying to deliver, then, that information came to me freely, means proactively. And now the situation is that every month the, international business head, he calls me and he tells me, Nilanjan, is by itna ho gaya target. So that gives me a feeling that, we have to be first very interested towards my fellow business team partner. And if we just change our approach a little bit, I think it will take some time initially, but things will follow, and all the information which we require, we will get it by default.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nilanjan, for sharing. Okay. So there is another, for Jinesh and Bhupinder ji. So, how much concerned you are to solve a problem. Okay, so there's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. If you have read those books, okay, or if you have read about return on the concern, which means that how much real concerned you are to solve a particular person's problem or a particular business problem. The kinds of questions you have, that itself speaks that, how much deeply concerned you are. So if they see the concern that it's bothering you, they will definitely come and help you out. So that is another small piece of suggestion, which I would like, all of you, rather, I also follow, that you should be deeply concerned about a problem. Okay, and then only you will get eventually a lot of information to support you to solve that problem. All right. So that's one more piece. You can blend it to get your work done. All right. Any other questions? Okay. If not, then let's move on. We will. Okay, so we will have a breakout room activity. So now it's 1 o'clock. Okay, so I think 15 minutes, the discussion time. Okay, and the remaining time that we have, another 15 minutes, we'll wrap up with the discussion in the main room. All right, so what we have to do is in the breakout room, we will, how many participants we have? We have around 28 participants now. So 28 participants, we will have 4 teams. Okay, we will have 4 teams. So team 1, team 2, team 3, and team 4, we will exactly split the teams like this. 2 teams will take up MS Excel. They have done a program on MS Excel, and you are to roll out a training feedback form. So you have to design a training feedback form which will measure level 1 and 2 of Kirkpatrick model. Likewise, team 2 and 4, you have done talent acquisition training program for your recruiters and hiring managers. So you are to design a training feedback form to measure level 1 and level 2 of this training. Okay. Now, you must include questions around pre-course, collecting pre-course information. That is before the course information. You must have questions around the content delivery, the structure of the program, the trainer, facilitator, facility, food, dining venue, general satisfaction, overall satisfaction level, and learning experience, training outcome, and application oriented, and any other things you want to add in order to get more inputs on your level 1 and level 2. So keep the form short. It can go up to only 2 pages. So keep it short, stay on the topic, ask actionable questions, not just a yes and no. Something which as an input, you can take it forward. Okay, so actionable questions. Make questions easy to answer. Provide multiple choice. So you can have a blend. Yes, no, descriptive, actionable, multiple choice, make it part of the process. So this is actually the breakout room discussion that you're going to have. 4 teams. We have 28 members. So Gurvinder ji, any questions here, by the way, before we start?
Ma'am, it has to be as per the model you just told, that AEIOU and this on those
No, it is Kirkpatrick model.
Okay.
Level 1 and level 2, satisfaction level based level, learning gain level 2. Okay, so learning game and application oriented also, we want some questions to come in. Level 3, part of it also you can bring in application related. because MS Excel is a project, is a topic which is actually you can see immediately how people are doing with some dummy project. You can give some project at the end of your training program, and you can see how people have understood and how much they are scoring. So that's the application part of it, which is the level 3. So you can bring in that. And by the way, if any of you are doing, say, for example, social media training, okay, which is part of the talent acquisition training program that you have done. So social media also, you can actually test immediately how people are finding profiles through the social media syntax. Okay, say on LinkedIn or on Facebook, some syntaxes you have to give actually to populate resumes. So that could be an immediate test. So the learning application, you can immediately find out through this test if they're able to find. So you can actually include level 1, level 2, and level 3 while you are designing this training feedback form for all the 4 teams. Okay. Any doubts? Okay, I hope I have made it clear for all. So Gurvinder ji, I need your help in making this 4 teams, forming these 4 teams. Hello, Govinda ji, you are there?
Yes, ma'am, I'm there.
Yeah, okay. Please form 4 teams. So before we actually open the room, no, I will just want to say which team is doing what. I just want to understand that. So we can name as team 1, team 2, team 3, and team 4 while we are forming the 4 teams. Once done, please let me know. So team 1 and team 3 will take up MS Excel and then design the training feedback form. Team 2 and team 4 will take up talent acquisition training program and design the training feedback form. So please join the respective teams.
Ma'am, is this class extending?
So we are waiting for everybody to quickly come back to the main room.
We're going to have the presentation at 2:30.
We won't have the presentation now because it's already 1:27.
Yes.
Okay, so during this 1 hour time that we have, maybe you can just fine tune your presentation deck.
Okay.
I mean, you finish your lunch, whatever. I mean, I leave it to you guys to have this 1 hour time also to kind of fine tune the presentation work.
Okay.
And we will meet up around 2:30 again to continue this and also the rest of the portion.